Well, a bill imposing tougher conditions on detainees released under a High Court judgment has passed Parliament in a late-night session last night. Joining us is the Deputy Opposition Leader Sussan Ley. Sussan, thanks for your time as always. So are you pleased the government has come around to your demands?
We finally got there, Pete, at 10 p.m. last night, but my goodness, doesn't the government have a blind spot on all of this stuff? I've been in the Parliament a long time. Anthony Albanese has been in the Parliament a long time. He wasn't actually in the Parliament last night. And we just saw from this government during the week a whole range of different positions, which started with there was nothing they could do. Well, Peter Dutton, as a previous Border Control Minister, knew there was plenty they could do. I and the team pushed to have legislation introduced and then pushed to make that legislation even tougher with 6 critical amendments, including that these people can't go near schools. And now we know that there's 80 plus hardened criminals out in the community with possibly 340 more who may be released. So yes, I am pleased we got there, but disappointed that community safety, which really is the first job of any government, was effectively put on hold by Anthony Albanese and his team.
So as things stand at the moment, Sussan, is the legislation as tough as it can get?
I think the opportunity needs to be there to toughen it, and obviously that can happen depending
How so?
on what goes on next. Well, the individuals are in the community and maybe 300 more are in the community. Now, one story really affected me, Pete, as a woman. A victim survivor found that her abuser was being let out and she just broke down and she said to the police, "What can you do to protect me?" Now, Anthony Albanese has let that woman down. He's let the Australian community down. He needs to be absolutely in control of where these individuals are with orders that absolutely require community safety to be put front and centre.
But on the point of making it tougher...
every option does have to be on the table.
Yeah, but other options such as...
Well, we did make it tougher.
Yeah. No, I get that,
We did make it tougher with 6 additional amendments.
When you say you want to leave the option of making it tougher down the track, I mean, do you have an idea of how you could do that? Or do you just kind of wait and see?
It depends what happens next. Having lost control of the situation, unfortunately, what worries a lot of the people who have been victims here is that they don't know where these individuals are. And while they may have obligations to report to police, does that mean that they will? And while they have visas and they have, apparently links with support services and so on, what does that mean for the people who they might offend against in the future? That has to be the main focus. That has to be where this government's focus is. Because unfortunately, people who have these records, once out in the community, are not likely to be extremely well behaved into the future. That's just not how these things are.
Okay. The Optus boss, Sussan, she's in the hot seat in a little over an hour's time from now. What do you want to hear from her today?
Well, she's in the hot seat, and I think government ministers need to be in the hot seat as well. And our senators amended that inquiry to make sure that the government has to answer questions also, because they have ultimate responsibilities around communications, particularly in times of emergencies, whether it be emergency services like ambulances, whether it be in times of bushfires. Let's not forget, because Pete, you and I know the news cycle moves on and there's other things that get talked about every single day, that there are people who are affected by this outage that have not gotten over it yet, that have had an extremely tough time, that are really, really worried and anxious that when they pick up their phone, it's not going to work. And they need answers, and those answers do need to come from this inquiry today. But I come back to my first point, which is that the government will also have questions to answer.